BlackRock's XRP secret has finally cracked open, and what we're about to reveal is the exact reason these financial titans have spent the last decade perfecting the art of silence, misdirection, and manipulation. From the very first moment Ripple entered the institutional crosshairs, the world's largest asset manager BlackRock knew that XRP was engineered for one purpose: to become the universal settlement asset for the next generation global financial system. But what they didn't want you to know, what they worked so hard to bury under layers of corporate PR and strategic denial, is that their internal models don't predict an XRP worth $50, $500, or even $5,000. Their hidden projections, the ones whispered about inside closed-door boardrooms and snapped off-air during those accidental broadcast slip-ups by analysts who lost their composure for just a second, point toward a real institutional price target as high as $60,000 per XRP, a valuation they refuse to allow the public to see, because it would cause retail investors to front-run one of the largest accumulation strategies in financial history. For months, BlackRock and their longtime partner and influence JP Morgan have quietly siphoned XRP off the market using dark pools, OTC desks, and proxy custodians, so that not a single trace appears in their mainstream filings or 13F reports. They want the world to believe they are skeptical, uninterested, or studying digital assets, but inside the machine the truth is far more calculated. Their interest isn't casual, it's predatory. They aren't watching from the sidelines, they're buying under the table. The story begins with a supposedly harmless Forbes digital finance piece that leaked far too much. The article highlighted BlackRock's internal blockchain settlement study and briefly referenced XRP as the only asset capable of handling quadrillion-dollar markets when paired with ISDS standard smart contract rails. The moment that sentence went live, it was scrubbed, rewritten, and re-uploaded with a soft, neutered tone, as if someone had made a phone call to the newsroom, reminding them who actually controls the financial narrative. But archived versions circulated for long enough to expose the truth. The article's author referenced a leaked model projecting that once liquidity demand reaches institutional scale, derivatives, FX, bond settlements, cross-border finality, intraday, clearing, the mathematical equilibrium for XRP approached valuation levels that retail investors would find, well, unimaginable. That number, buried in the original version, hovered around $50,000 to $60,000, not speculative, not hype. Model. Then came the moment that honestly sent the crypto rumor mill into collapse. The Bloomberg advisor, who during a live discussion on institutional payment rails, blurted out, well, if XRP ever reaches the equilibrium price, BlackRock expects, only to freeze as his co-host stared at him, shake his head, and quietly motioned to cut to commercial. When the broadcast resumed, the advisor had been replaced by another commentator. Bloomberg later claimed it was a scheduled rotation, but audio engineers leaked that the cut was abrupt, and the original speaker was visibly stressed off camera, repeating that he didn't think the model was still confidential. That one sentence gave retail a glimpse into the secret war unfolding beneath traditional markets. These institutions weren't guessing, they weren't speculating, they had internal numbers, and those numbers matched the original Forbes leak almost exactly. So why hide it? Why bury the truth under layers of dismissal, ridicule, and strategic silence? Because BlackRock cannot, under any circumstance, allow retail investors to flood into XRP before they finish building liquidity dominance. XRP isn't like other assets, it isn't just a token, it's a settlement instrument, one that requires deep pools of tightly held liquidity to serve as the digital backbone for the global value transfer network being constructed behind closed doors. BlackRock knows that settlement assets do not behave like speculative coins, they behave like infrastructure. They are not bought. They are utilized by the largest players in the world, and the value they must absorb is dictated not by charts or hype, but by real-world transaction throughput, collateralization grade, and institutional liquidity thresholds. This is why the derivatives market matters. This is why ISDA matters. This is why their interest in Ripple's institutional partnerships wasn't curiosity. It was strategic positioning for a new era of programmable finance in which settlement must be instantaneous, irreversible, and compliant across every jurisdiction simultaneously. BlackRock's quiet alliance with JP Morgan in this arena is no coincidence either. Decades these two entities have shaped global liquidity policy. They influence the World Bank, IMF, BIS committees, and the direction of institutional payment rails. Their fingerprints show up in everything, from the push for tokenized treasuries to the pilot programs testing wholesale CBDCs. These are not random experiments, they are steps toward a singular global architecture, where a neutral, highly scalable asset functions as the universal settlement layer connecting banks, governments, financial institutions, and decentralized liquidity networks, and the only asset ever designed for that role. Fast enough, liquid enough, compliant enough, and already partnered deeply enough is XRP. But here is where the manipulation becomes undeniable. BlackRock cannot accumulate an asset that is meant to function as global settlement collateral if the price is already skyrocketing due to public anticipation. If retail front-runs institutions, liquidity becomes fragmented and inaccessible, and so they execute the oldest playbook in finance: suppress, deny, accumulate, control. They downplay XRP publicly while buying privately. They push narratives that make the token appear risky, unstable, unregulated, or technologically inferior, while leveraging those very same limitations as justification for slow strategic accumulation. Every lawsuit delay, every regulatory ambiguity, every contradictory headline about Ripple's court case plays into the same strategy: push the price down long enough to let the giants finish loading up, and now the quiet arms race has entered its final stage. The testing is almost done. Tokenized treasuries are no longer hypothetical. They're live. Central banks are finalizing wholesale CBDC networks. Interbank settlement pilots are completing integration cycles. For the system to launch, a universal liquidity asset must stand ready, and BlackRock has positioned themselves to own a disproportionate share of it. They cannot afford for the world to know how essential XRP is. They cannot afford for retail investors to flood in early and disrupt their target liquidity curve. Most importantly, they cannot afford for the $60,000 equilibrium price target to leak again, because at that point the accumulation phase ends and the price discovery phase begins. This is the last chapter before the narrative flips. The elites have always operated with the same predictable arrogance: release information only when they are fully positioned, fully hedged, and fully prepared to profit on the other side of a global financial shift. But this time, their secrecy cracked, their advisors slipped, their articles leaked, their accumulation patterns revealed more than they intended, and now, retail finally has the information they never wanted you to see. The information that turns a quiet corporate strategy into a global financial awakening. But if you're watching this, understand one thing clearly: once the truth becomes mainstream, once BlackRock stops denying and starts openly integrating XRP into their settlement architecture, the window closes forever. This is your final chance to stay ahead of the giants before the price reflects the system they've already built in the shadows. Stay informed, stay alert, and subscribe to make sure you never miss the next leak from behind the curtain. The elites have tried so hard to keep shut. Please remember, I am not a licensed financial advisor. The content presented in these videos is purely for entertainment purposes. I always encourage viewers to conduct their own research and consult with professionals before making any financial decisions. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also, make sure you turn on the notifications to be the first to know when I release new content. I'm excited to catch up with you in the upcoming video. Take care.